Today we're going to be talking about the central folding mechanism on a variety of baby jogger strollers. This is a City Classic, which is a bit older, but the mechanism is almost identical on the City Elite and the Performance, the Mini GT, the Versa, pretty much anything other than the Select and the City models that they have. And we're going to disassemble this, and the same procedure will work on a City Elite or any of the other models I've described, with very few variations, which I'll discuss as we go. So we're going to disassemble this, which is going to involve taking the mechanism also off of the bars above and below, and we're going to start with that. I'm going to start by removing the upper bar. There are two screws here, and you access them from the back side to pull them out. These screws can very often break, especially I've seen it on the City Elite, in which case you might need to replace them. I don't mean break while removing them, but break during use. And so this is how you would remove it for that purpose as well. Okay, it took a little longer than it usually does in this case because the screws were rusty and this thing hasn't been taken apart for a while. But in any case, after you get those screws out, you can pull this whole bit off. And this bar connects to this with these two plastic pieces that go around it, and they have corresponding holes for the screws. So you'll see that when we're putting it back together. To remove the central mechanism from the lower part, you have these little caps that are on top of pegs that go through. And you'll need like a flathead screwdriver to get them off. They have a tendency to pop off and fly, so don't lose them. They have a little tooth washer on the inside, and there's the end of the peg sticking out. You can just bang it through, use the back side of your hammer to pull it out afterwards. We'll do the other one. I'm going to use these pliers a little bit here because I don't care about this chassis, but I recommend using the flathead screwdriver to prevent scratches yourself, as I did with the other peg. There we go. Now we can pull this out. And you'll notice it also has these plastic sheath pieces that go around the central mechanism. So now the central mechanism has been detached from both the upper and the front end of the stroller, and we can disassemble it here. We got a lot of questions from people who don't know that this is a sticker. In this case, I believe it's more of a plastic sticker, but on the Elite and a lot of the newer models, it is also a sticker, even though it looks like metal. It's just a thin piece of aluminum with a lot of glue on the backside. And as you pry it off, you can damage it a bit, so try to be as careful as you can. Afterwards, you can reapply it with some super glue. Underneath here is a large screw in the center, you see? And that's the only screw under. So we need to remove this screw, these two, and this one. This one is a 5mm. One of the strange and I suppose unnecessary facts about Baby Jogger is that it uses mostly 4mm machine screws, which is actually rare among strollers. There's not so many 5mm screws on it. moving on to the last screw. The nut here is under the folding mechanism on the back side. Go. Now we can open up the actual mechanism. Alright, correction, there is actually one screw more under the sticker, another 4mm at the top. There we go. These screws are not all the same length. So this was the one on top. These are the ones on the side. This is the one on the bottom. You can see they're all actually different lengths. So you want to be aware of how you pulled them out. The one on the bottom, I believe, is the longest. The shortest are the two on the sides. And the medium one is the one at the top. And the 5mm is the one in the middle. So that's thicker. Okay, so we've pulled off the front side of this. On some models, you will find a plastic plate that goes between the inside of this and the mechanism itself. So you just want to keep track of that. The mechanism functions with this small gear tooth wheel that runs through these gear teeth here, both on this plate and on the plate on the back side. Yeah, I'll show you that as I take it out. And the large screw goes here, so the 4mm goes here, it goes through this. What happens a lot of times when people need to replace this is that these gear teeth get chewed out and then the stroller isn't folding up and down properly. What also can happen is that these here break. I'm gonna remove the back side of this. So the important, get to that in a moment. Important part about the back side is this part, which is, this is like the strap that goes through the seat, attaches here, and that's what you pull up in order to release the mechanism. And as you pull it up, this goes down. And what happens when this goes down is that it pushes this down, which pulls this little metal bar at the top out of here, this little notch, yeah? So when this is in like this, it's locked because that bar is holding this. As soon as that thing gets pulled down, this part is able to slide, if you can kind of see that. So on this back piece, these parts can also get lost relatively easily. There is this little metal frame on the inside here. There's the black piece that connects to the strap, and there's this little peg that holds it into this frame. So those are the parts. Let's look at this one. You have, again, the teeth, and this piece rolls through the teeth as it goes up and down. The different models actually have different sized teeth and different shaped gear wheels, but they're all like 4-sided clover bits like this. So just like you need the replacement parts for your specific mechanism. In any case, those are the elements that go inside the central mechanism. And now I'm going to put it back together because there's nothing actually wrong with this one. But if you needed to swap out any of these parts, this is how you would disassemble it. Okay, I'm going to start reassembling the mechanism. I just wanted to say, if you are unable to find new parts for your mechanism, it is actually possible to take this mechanism off of a stroller that's not yours and swap it, even though some of the inside parts are different. What you need to do in that case is swap out the entire mechanism. So let's say you have a City Elite that's damaged, you can't get internal parts, but you get a hold of one of these City Classics. So the way the mechanism functions overall is the same. What you need to do then is take all the parts off the City Classic, the whole mechanism, and then mount it onto your City Elite. Yeah, instead of just swapping out little bits like the gear wheels and so on. Okay, so we're gonna start putting this back together. I'm going to put this front end in as well for some stability. can be a little bit fiddly. Let's see. You want to kind of get these sheaths in part way and then get this piece in. And in the end, it should all kind of slot into place. There, holes line up. Okay, then this piece is, as I said, this little trench is going to fit right onto that peg. And I always start with the back side. So here's the back side again. This metal part here is already in there. It goes in like this. And then you slide this peg through here and pull it so that it fits into that groove. And then, moving it onto the back, this part, this lever, has to fit in here. And you want to look at these, this depression is going to match with this peg here. This one has to be more or less even on both sides. There's also specific room for that on the inside of this plastic lip. There we go. You can see now, look, if I pull this and hold it tight, it pulls it down, yes? So it's correct. Now we're going to go with this gear wheel, and it needs to slide, the axle in the middle needs to slide into that circular depression on the back side, and then you can just fit it in so that the teeth are fitting inside, or these like blades on the gear wheel are fitting inside the teeth. And we will put the front panel back on. There we go. Then it's just a matter of putting all of the screws back in, gluing that sticker back in place, putting these pegs through. I'll show that real quick first, actually. Actually, maybe I had better put at least one screw in here so it doesn't all fall apart. Do the bottom one as well. Okay, these pegs, just wanted to show you real quick. It's gonna be a little bit tricky. Okay, so this part was actually a bit misaligned. I had to realign it inside. I've gotten the back side of the peg through. The one thing about it is that this is kind of thin metal. So you want to get the peg through first and it'll kind of get sat in place. And actually I tend to just push it with my hand. And if I need a little extra, I try to like hold it maybe with something rubber and bang from the back side. If you need to hit on this side, use a rubber mallet, because once this thing flattens out, if you just hit it with a hammer, you'll no longer be able to get it to stay in place. All right, gonna continue putting it together. Let's see. Again, if you lose any of the lock nuts or machine screws, it's 4mm. Screws will be harder to replace because of the lengths, but it should be fine with the lock nuts. Okay, I've used the bar on this side. It was a bit harder for me to get this in place. I think I'm just going to tell you how to do it. You're going to want to put the sheaths on in the same fashion we did down below and slide it in, and then really it's just a matter of making sure that all the holes line up with this part such that you can get the screws through. It's pretty self-evident. Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful. If it has, please subscribe. It helps us to make more videos in the future.